Imagine walking down a quiet street at night, only to realize you're not alone. Shadows move on their own. Whispers echo from empty alleyways. Some roads in the UK are so haunted, even locals refuse to step foot there after dark. From ghostly monks to weeping women, these streets hide terrifying secrets. What would you do if you saw them staring back at you? Stick around, because today we're counting down the 10 most haunted streets in the UK and the nightmares that never left them. 1. The Shambles, York. The Shambles in York is one of the most famous haunted streets in the UK. This narrow cobbled lane, with its old wooden buildings that almost touch each other at the top, looks like something from a medieval movie, but beneath its charming appearance lies a dark and ghostly past. The street was once filled with butchers' shops, and the smell of blood and death hung in the air. Many believe this history of suffering has left behind restless spirits that still walk the street today. One of the most well-known ghosts here is the spirit of a butcher who is said to haunt the street. People have reported seeing a shadowy figure dressed in old-fashioned clothes, standing in doorways or even walking through walls. Some say they hear strange noises, like the sound of knives being sharpened, even though no one is there. Others have felt sudden cold spots or been touched by unseen hands. Another ghost often spotted is a young girl who appears in a white dress. She's said to be the spirit of a child who died tragically in one of the houses. Visitors have seen her looking out of windows or even running down the street before vanishing into thin air. Some believe she is still searching for her family. The most haunted building on the Shambles is a shop called the Ghost Shop, which sells spooky souvenirs. Workers and customers have reported objects moving on their own, ghostly whispers, and even full-bodied apparitions. Some say a former resident, a woman who died in the building long ago, still lingers there, watching over the shop. Even during the day, the Shambles has an eerie feeling. Many locals avoid walking there at night, especially when the street is empty and the old gas lamps cast flickering shadows. Tourists who visit often leave with strange photos, blurry figures, unexplained lights, or faces in windows where no one was standing. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the Shambles has a creepy atmosphere that sends chills down the spine. With its violent history, tragic deaths, and countless ghost sightings, it's no wonder this street is known as one of the most haunted places in Britain. If you ever visit, keep your eyes open. You might just see something that can't be explained. 2 Mary King's Close, Edinburgh. Mary King's Close in Edinburgh is one of the most terrifying haunted places in the UK. Hidden beneath the busy streets of the Royal Mile, this old underground alley was once a normal part of the city in the 1600s. But when the plague hit Edinburgh, the close became a place of suffering and death. Many sick and dying people were sealed inside to stop the disease from spreading, leaving them to die in darkness. Today, their restless spirits are said to still wander the damp, narrow passageways. One of the most famous ghosts here is a little girl named Annie. Visitors and tour guides have reported feeling an eerie presence near a small room where a child's doll lies on a bed. Many believe Annie died alone during the plague, and her spirit remains trapped in the close. People often leave toys and coins for her, hoping to bring her comfort. Some say they have heard a child crying or even felt a tiny cold hand tugging at their clothes. Another ghost often seen is a tall, shadowy figure in a long coat, believed to be a plague doctor. These doctors wore beak-like masks to protect themselves from the disease, and their appearance was already terrifying in life. Now visitors claim to see a dark figure moving silently through the corridors, as if still watching over the dead. Others have reported sudden chills, unexplained whispers, and even the feeling of being pushed by unseen hands. One of the creepiest parts of Mary King's Close is a room known as the deathbed. It is said that a woman named Mary, possibly related to the Close's name, died there in agony. People who enter the room often feel overwhelming sadness or panic, as if her suffering still lingers in the air. Some have even seen the ghostly figure of a woman lying on the bed, only for her to vanish moments later. Tour guides who work in the Close have countless stories of strange happenings, cameras malfunctioning, voices echoing when no one is there, and sudden drops in temperature. Even skeptics leave feeling uneasy, as if the weight of the Close's tragic past never truly faded. Mary King's Close is more than just a tourist attraction. It's a place where the past feels alive, and the dead may still walk among the living. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the heavy atmosphere and chilling stories make it one of the most haunted places in Scotland. If you ever visit, be prepared. You might just feel the touch of a ghostly hand in the dark. 3. Bleeding Heart Yard, London. Tucked away near Hatton Garden, this small courtyard has a name that comes from a truly terrifying legend. The story goes that in the 1600s, the beautiful Lady Elizabeth Hatton was found here one night, torn apart in the snow. The only thing left of her was a still beating heart, lying in a pool of blood. Some say she was killed by the devil himself after making a dark deal, while others believe it was the work of a violent nobleman. Whatever the truth, her ghost is said to still haunt the yard, screaming in the night as she relives her horrible death. People walking through Bleeding Heart Yard have reported strange things for centuries. Some hear a woman's desperate cries when no one is around, while others smell the metallic scent of blood in the air. Workers in the offices around the yard have seen a pale, ghostly figure in old-fashioned clothes wandering near the spot where Lady Hatton died. There are even tales of a phantom coach pulled by black horses that races through the yard at midnight. Some believe it's carrying her doomed spirit. The yard's creepy reputation isn't just about Lady Hatton, though. In the 1800s, a man named Mr. O'Neill was found dead here, his heart ripped out just like in the old legend. Some think it was a copycat murder, while others whisper that the same evil force that killed Lady Hatton came back for another victim. Even today, visitors sometimes feel watched or suddenly overcome with fear for no reason. Others have taken photos showing strange shadows or misty shapes that weren't there when the picture was taken. Despite its quiet appearance during the day, Bleeding Heart Yard has a heavy, unsettling feeling, especially after dark. Locals often avoid it at night, and even delivery drivers refuse to go near it. Whether it's cursed, haunted, or just the site of horrible crimes, one thing is certain: this place holds memories of violence that refuse to fade. If you ever find yourself there, listen carefully. You might just hear the echo of a bleeding heart, still beating in the shadows. 4 Clink Street, London. Clink Street in London may look like just another cobbled lane near the Thames, but its history is soaked in screams and suffering. This was where the infamous Clink prison stood for over 600 years, locking up everyone from debtors to heretics in filthy, rat-filled cells. Prisoners were tortured with brutal devices like the rack and iron shackles, and many died in agony within its walls. Today, the old prison is gone, but the echoes of its horrors remain, along with the ghosts of those who never left. Walk down Clink Street at night, and you might hear the distant clanking of chains or muffled cries from the shadows. Visitors often report sudden drops in temperature, as if passing through an invisible wall of cold air. Some have seen pale skeletal figures pressed against windows where no buildings remain, their mouths open in silent screams. Workers in the pubs and shops along the street tell stories of objects flying off shelves, doors slamming by themselves, and the sound of dragging footsteps following them when no one's there. One of the most active spots is near the ruins of the original prison walls. People have reported being grabbed by unseen hands or feeling someone breathing down their necks. Others have captured ghostly faces in photographs, gaunt, desperate expressions staring back from the darkness. The spirit of a woman in tattered Tudor-era clothing is often seen near the riverbank, believed to be a prisoner who drowned trying to escape. Even during the day, Clink Street has an uneasy atmosphere. Tour guides leading groups through the area often notice their equipment malfunctioning, flashlights flickering, cameras shutting off, or audio recordings filling with static and whispers. Some visitors suddenly feel dizzy or nauseous for no reason, as if the street itself rejects their presence. The worst stories come from those brave or foolish enough to explore alone after midnight. They tell of shadowy figures crawling along the ground like injured prisoners, phantom torches flickering in abandoned corners, and the smell of burning flesh lingering in the air. Whether it's tortured souls trapped forever, or just the weight of centuries of cruelty, Clink Street hasn't forgotten its past. If you visit, tread lightly. You might wake something that should have stayed buried. 5 East Drive, Pontiffract. East Drive in Pontiffract, West Yorkshire, might look like an ordinary suburban street, but one house here holds the terrifying secret of Britain's most violent poltergeist. Number 30. East Drive became infamous in the 1960s when the Pritchard family moved in and found themselves under siege by an invisible force they called the Black Monk. What started as strange noises soon turned into full-blown horror. Chairs slid across the floor on their own, objects flew through the air, and the family members were slapped, pushed, and even dragged up the stairs by unseen hands. The haunting became so intense that priests were called to bless the house, but even they couldn't stop the terror. The spirit, dressed in a long black robe like a medieval monk, was seen multiple times lurking in the hallway or at the foot of beds. Cold spots would appear out of nowhere, and the smell of rotting flesh sometimes filled the air. One night, the family's teenage son, Philip, was strangled by an invisible force that left finger-shaped bruises on his neck. Another time, a heavy crucifix was ripped from the wall and thrown across the room. The attacks weren't just scary, they were vicious. Even after the Pritchards fled, new owners and visitors reported being scratched, whispered to, or followed by something unseen. Paranormal investigators who stayed overnight caught voices on tape and witnessed doors slamming shut by themselves. The house's dark history might explain why the Black Monk is so angry. Centuries ago, a monk was hanged nearby for raping and murdering a young girl. Some believe his spirit is trapped at East Drive, taking out his rage on anyone who enters. Others think the land itself is cursed. Long before the house was built, people reported seeing shadowy figures in the fields. Today, 30 East Drive is known as the most haunted council house in Britain. Brave visitors still dare to spend the night, but many leave shaken, with stories of being watched, touched, or even attacked. The air often feels heavy, like something is pressing down on your chest, and many hear growling or footsteps when no one's there. Whether it's a trapped soul or something far darker, one thing's certain: the Black Monk doesn't like guests. If you ever find yourself on East Drive after dark, keep moving. That shadow in the corner, it might just be watching you back. 6 Gold Hill, Shaftsbury. Gold Hill in Shaftsbury, Dorset, is one of England's most picturesque streets, a steep cobbled lane lined with quaint cottages and breathtaking views of the countryside. But behind its postcard-perfect charm lies a darker history, where ghostly figures from centuries past still linger. This historic hill was once part of a busy medieval marketplace, where life was hard and death came early. Many believe the echoes of those troubled times remain, with spirits unable to leave the place they once knew. The most frequently seen ghost is that of a heartbroken young woman in a flowing white dress. Locals call her the Weeping Lady of Gold Hill. According to legend, she was a merchant's daughter who threw herself from the hill after her lover was executed for a crime he didn't commit. Visitors often report seeing her pale figure standing at the hill's highest point at dusk, her face streaked with tears before she vanishes into thin air. Some have heard desperate sobbing coming from empty alleyways, while others claim to have felt an icy hand brush against theirs when no one is nearby. Another unsettling presence is that of an elderly man in tattered 18th century clothing, seen hobbling up the steep incline with a heavy sack. Historians believe he may have been a real person, a poor labourer who collapsed and died carrying goods up the hill. Those who've encountered him say he disappears when approached, leaving behind only the faint smell of sweat and old leather. Workers at the Gold Hill Museum have reported hearing heavy breathing and the sound of something being dragged up the stairs when the building is empty. The hill becomes particularly active during autumn nights, when mist creeps up from the valley below. Residents have woken to the sound of phantom horses and cartwheels clattering over the cobbles, though looking outside reveals nothing. Some windows in the cottages still show ghostly faces peering out, faces that don't belong to any living occupant. Photographers often capture strange orbs and misty shapes in their pictures, especially near the ancient stone walls. What makes Gold Hill so haunted may be its long history of both joy and suffering. The steep slope that now charms tourists once witnessed public punishments, tragic accidents, and desperate poverty. The stones themselves seem to remember, replaying moments from the past when conditions are just right. Visitors often describe an odd feeling of being watched, or sudden sadness with no obvious cause. Whether it's the weeping lady mourning her lost love, or the echoes of hard-working souls who never left, Gold Hill's beauty hides secrets that occasionally surface when the sun goes down. The next time you admire that famous view, look closely. You might see more than just the picturesque English countryside. 7 Greenock's Hells Close, Scotland. Greenock's Hells Close in Scotland might sound like something from a nightmare, but for those who've experienced its horrors, the name is frighteningly accurate. Tucked away in this coastal town, the narrow alleyway earned its sinister reputation centuries ago, when it was a filthy, disease-ridden passage where the poor lived in squalor and often died forgotten. Today, even though the original close is gone, the spot where it once stood remains one of Scotland's most violently haunted places. People who walk near it at night report being overcome with sudden dread, as if the very air is thick with suffering. Some hear phantom screams or the sound of bodies being dragged across cobblestones. Others see shadowy figures darting between buildings, their hollow eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The most terrifying spirit said to haunt Hell's Close is a large, aggressive figure known as the Crushing Man. Witnesses describe being charged at by a hulking shadow with outstretched hands, as if trying to strangle them. Several people have reported actually being grabbed and lifted off their feet by an invisible force before being thrown to the ground. Paranormal investigators who visited the site recorded deep, guttural growls on their devices, along with the sound of something heavy breathing right next to them when no living person was there. One night, a team even captured a chilling thermal image of a massive, man-shaped heat signature that appeared for just seconds before vanishing. But the Crushing Man isn't the only ghost here. The lost souls of Hell's Close include children who died during cholera outbreaks, their tiny footsteps sometimes heard running and giggling before abruptly cutting off. There's also the infamous Lady in the Ashes, a woman whose charred figure has been seen kneeling in the alley, her blackened hands covering her face. Local legend says she died in a fire that swept through the close in the 1800s, and her spirit remains trapped in her final moments of agony. Even in daylight, the area feels wrong. Dogs refuse to go near it, growling at empty spaces. People walking past often feel unseen fingers brush their arms or tug at their clothes. Some develop unexplained scratches or bruises after visiting. The few brave souls who've tried spending the night nearby tell of hearing dozens of voices whispering at once, furniture moving on its own, and the overwhelming stench of rotting flesh suddenly filling the air. Whether these spirits are trapped echoes of the past or something more sinister, one thing is clear: Hell's Close lives up to its name. The suffering that happened here left a stain that never faded, and the dead don't rest quietly. If you ever find yourself near this cursed spot after dark, keep walking and don't look back. Whatever you hear breathing behind you isn't human. 8. Lombard Street, Manchester. Lombard Street in Manchester may look like any other city centre road today, but beneath its modern shops and offices lies a dark past that refuses to stay buried. This unassuming street was once the heart of Manchester's Victorian slums, where overcrowded tenements housed the desperately poor in filthy, airless rooms. Disease, crime, and tragedy were daily realities here, and many believe the echoes of those suffering souls still linger. Workers in the area often report hearing phantom children's laughter echoing down empty alleyways at night, followed by sudden, unnatural silence. Others speak of seeing gaunt, shadowy figures in ragged clothing darting between doorways, figures that vanish when approached. The most common report is of unexplained footsteps following close behind people walking alone at night, footsteps that stop the moment you turn to look. One particularly active spot is near the old railway arches, where a ghostly woman in a blood-stained dress has been seen repeatedly. Local historians believe she may be the spirit of a young mother who died in childbirth in one of the slum dwellings, as her apparition is often seen cradling an invisible bundle and sobbing uncontrollably. Security guards patrolling the area at night have reported hearing these heartbreaking sobs coming from dark corners, only to find no one there. More disturbingly, several people have reported feeling an icy hand suddenly grip their wrists near these arches, as if the desperate spirit is seeking help that never came. The basement of one particular building on Lombard Street has become notorious among paranormal investigators. Workers refused to go down there alone after multiple people reported seeing a tall, thin figure with hollow eyes standing motionless in the shadows. One night, cleaner claimed the figure advanced toward him while making a horrible gurgling sound before disappearing right in front of him. Others tell of tools being thrown across the room by unseen hands and the sound of multiple people whispering in the empty space. The building stands on what was once a cholera burial ground, and many believe the disturbed dead are still angry about being forgotten. Even during the day, Lombard Street has spots where the temperature suddenly drops and people feel watched. Some visitors report catching glimpses of Victorian-era children in the reflections of shop windows, or smelling the overpowering stench of old sewage and decay that comes from nowhere and fades just as quickly. The street's violent history seems to have left a permanent mark, with the past occasionally bleeding into the present. Whether these are ghosts, echoes, or something else entirely, one thing is certain: Lombard Street hasn't forgotten its tragic past, and some of its former residents may still be walking alongside the living today. 9 Westgate Road, Newcastle. Westgate Road in Newcastle has a reputation that makes even hardened locals quicken their pace after dark. What appears as an ordinary city street by daylight transforms into something far more sinister at night, when the ghosts of its brutal past come out to play. This stretch of road was once the site of Newcastle's most notorious prison, where public hangings drew bloodthirsty crowds and prisoners died in squalid conditions. The prison may be long gone, but something of its dark energy remains. Taxi drivers tell stories of picking up silent passengers along Westgate Road who vanish before reaching their destination, leaving behind only a chill in the air and the faint smell of mildew. Others report seeing shadowy figures in period clothing, standing motionless under streetlights, their faces oddly blurred as if seen through dirty glass. The most frequently reported ghost is that of a woman in a tattered grey dress, seen wandering near the site of the old prison gates. Her face is said to be twisted in permanent anguish, her mouth open in a silent scream. Paranormal investigators believe she may have been a prisoner accused of witchcraft, or perhaps one of the many poor souls who died from neglect in the filthy cells. Those who've encountered her speak of sudden, overwhelming despair and the sound of faint crying that seems to come from inside their own heads. Construction workers digging near the area in the 1990s reported finding human bones beneath the pavement, and soon after, tools would go missing only to reappear in the strange places, as if moved by unseen hands. At the junction with Granger Street, many drivers tell of a phantom hitchhiker, a pale young man in outdated clothing who appears suddenly in the road, causing cars to swerve. Those who stop to help find their back seats empty moments later. The old pubs along Westgate Road have their own share of hauntings too, with staff reporting glasses smashing by themselves, shadowy figures glimpsed in cellars, and the sound of heavy dragging noises from empty rooms above. One bartender claims to have seen an entire group of Victorian-era drinkers appear at a corner table one quiet evening, their ghostly laughter fading as they raised glasses that left no moisture rings on the wood. What makes Westgate Road particularly unsettling is how the hauntings seem to intensify during Newcastle's famous foggy nights. The swirling mists sometimes take on unnatural shapes, forming what look like writhing human figures before dissipating. Security camera footage from nearby businesses often shows strange blurs and distortions moving against the wind. Whether these phenomena are the trapped souls of prisoners, victims of the street's violent past, or something even older that predates the city itself, one thing is clear: Westgate Road has never fully let go of its dead. The next time you walk this street at night, listen carefully. That shuffling sound behind you might not be the wind, and that dark shape in your peripheral vision might be more than just a trick of the light. 10 White Lady Road, Bristol. White Lady Road in Bristol gets its eerie name from the ghostly figure that has haunted this quiet stretch for centuries. According to local legend, the White Lady was a heartbroken woman who took her own life near the road after losing her husband in a tragic accident. Dressed in a flowing white gown, her spirit has been seen floating along the roadside at dusk, her face pale and sorrowful. Drivers passing by have reported suddenly seeing her standing in the middle of the road, causing them to slam on their brakes, only for her to vanish into thin air. Others tell of catching glimpses of her in their rearview mirrors, sitting in the back seat before disappearing when they turn to look. The haunting isn't limited to just sightings. Many people walking along White Lady Road at night report hearing soft weeping coming from the surrounding trees, though no one is ever there. Some feel an icy hand brush against their arm, or hear a woman's voice whisper their name when alone. The air often grows unnaturally cold in certain spots, even on warm summer nights. Paranormal investigators have recorded strange electronic voice phenomena here, recordings that capture faint responses to questions no living person answered. One particularly chilling recording seems to say, "Help me," in a woman's voice, though no one present heard it at the time. The road's history adds weight to the ghost stories. It was once part of an ancient route where funeral processions passed, and local folklore says the White Lady may have been mourning a loved one long before the modern road existed. Some believe she's not just one ghost, but many spirits of grieving women who have become confused over time. Others think the road itself acts like a doorway between worlds, explaining why so many people report seeing shadowy figures darting between trees or strange lights floating above the pavement at night. Even during the day, White Lady Road has an unsettling atmosphere. Dogs often refuse to walk certain sections, whining and pulling on their leashes. Cyclists report feeling like someone is riding behind them, hearing the sound of extra bicycle wheels when no one is there. The few houses along the road have their own stories. Residents speak of lights turning on by themselves, doors unlocking, and the sound of a woman's footsteps pacing empty rooms. Whether the White Lady is a single tragic spirit or something more mysterious, one thing is certain: this quiet Bristol road holds secrets that go beyond normal understanding. The next time you find yourself driving down White Lady Road as night falls, keep your eyes on the roadside. That pale shape in your headlights might not be mist, and that chill down your spine might be more than just the night air. Some say if you look into her eyes when she appears, you'll see your own death reflected back at you, a warning that stays with you long after you've left the haunted road behind.